Emily Miller is also fantastic, and Emily Miller, I don't have to ask Cameron because
I was gonna say I'm no Kennedy, I'm no
she's
VJ.
here. Well, who is? I mean, really, it's a very small pool of people who can say that they've been an MTV VJ.
It's very true.
In fact,
That's very true.
I don't think anybody over like the last 20 years can even say that, right?
They don't have them anymore, right?
Right, exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it also kind of ages you.
Well, there's that. There's that. How are you?
I'm good. I'm preparing. I mean, I'm so excited to go to my very first NRA meeting.
Oh, this is going to be your first one?
It's a huge change in my life.
Well, listen,
I've never been to one before.
And this is a good one to go to. I mean, if this is your
big.
first, yeah. Well, they say everything's bigger in Texas, but this year, honestly, I anticipate this is going to be a record-setting NRA annual meeting. I think.
I hope so. What is your latest guess on attendance?
I have no idea because it varies from venue to venue. I'm trying to think of what it was back, in 2005 in Houston, which was the last time it was there. Mm-hmm. It was, I believe, over 60,000.
Oh, and it probably wasn't. It wasn't a big year for gun control issues. It wasn't an election year.
Right.
There was no Rick Perry.
Right.
Right.
There'll
be bajillions of people.
Yeah, last year in St. Louis, it was something like 73,000, something like that.
Oh, my goodness.
That was amazing.
Gracious. It's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah, get your walking shoes.
I know. I have a feeling I'm probably not going to get very far in my heels.
Yeah, don't even bother. I mean, like, seriously, no matter how good you may look in the heels, you'll thank me for this. Your feet are going to be aching at the end of the day.
Wow. All right.
If you want to see all the cool stuff, if you want to just, sit and look pretty, you can wear your heels and just hang out on set with us.
Well, I have this job where I actually have to write news events, so I can't play it with too many toys.
Yeah.
So I'll be looking for people to interview and watching the speeches. I'm very excited for all the speeches on Friday. Rick Perry, Sarah Palin, Ted Cruz on Saturday. I mean, that's what I'm excited about. That I'm a political nerd, so.
Well, that's the cool thing about the NRA annual meeting. There's something for everybody there. If you're a gearhead, I mean, if you like to handle the cool guns and you want to look for your latest acquisition, you can do that. If you want to stay away from the floor itself and just go to the events, go to the panel discussions, you can do that too. I mean, there's a reason why the thing is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because it really does take more than one day to see everything.
Right.
So, all right, listen, we got to talk about Bloomberg and Menino using the bombings in Boston to go after more gun control.
I mean, it's really, you always think you've gotten to the end of how far Mayor Bloomberg will go to exploit horrible tragedies for gun control, for his own gun control games, and then you think you hit it, and then you didn't. So now Mayors Against Illegal Guns, his organization he bought and paid for, put out this new website called the Terror Gap, and it's saying that somehow linking these two terrorist bombers in Boston who use a pressure cooker to saying that anybody who's on the FBI's terror list should be in the NICS system so they can't buy a gun. Now, they don't say that those ACLU thinks it's 1 million people. The FBI tells me it's 500,000, but ACLU says 1 million people. None of those people have had trials. None of those people are guilty of anything, and 5% of them are American citizens. So those American citizens are going to be denied their Second Amendment rights without a trial, without a hearing, without anything, and that's what Mayor Bloomberg wants to do.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Emily. This is as you well know, this is not new. Back in 2007, I think it was, Rahm Emanuel, now the mayor of Chicago, then congressman, was a keynote speaker at the Brady campaign event in Washington, D.C., and he brought this up. He said, this is something we need to run on. He said, this is good politics here. He said, to me, if you're on that list, you're not part of the American family. And we need to, take this message to Congress that the NRA wants to arm terrorists. This has been part of their playbook now for years. And again, part of the playbook has been to confuse the American people about how you get on this list, what being on this list means. And again, here's my question. What other rights get taken away if you're on the list?
well, you can't fly on an airplane. But that's fine because there's only 20,000 of those people. Quite frankly, I don't want to get on an airplane with them either. And that's not a right. That's a privilege.
Can
so
you
I have no
vote?
problem with that. Here's what I'm saying. I mean, going to what you're pointing out is the bigger picture here, is that the gun grabbers come up with these things, and it's a very smart tactic. I'm complimenting Rahm and Bloomberg and Obama. They come up with these things they call common sense proposals. And you hear them use that phrase all the time. Universal background checks. It's common sense. We won't want bad guys to have guns. We don't want crazy people to have guns. It's common sense. It's common sense you don't want these Chechnyan terrorists to have guns. Of course, none of us do. We don't want the Muslim fundamentalists in our country with guns. That makes sense. And so that's what they do. They get everybody, people who don't know a lot about the issues, and half the country doesn't own a gun, or probably more than half the country probably doesn't follow these issues closely. So they get convinced, and they go, that makes sense. And then the poll numbers go up, and then Congress goes, oh, look, the poll numbers are up. We have to do this. It's common sense. Everyone agrees. Let's put all the terrorists on a list, and then you can't buy guns. And then what they do is they nip away at the Second Amendment. It's just a little chip here and a little chip there. This is exactly what they did 20 years ago with the assault weapon. I mean, they know, I know, you know, everyone who's educated on this issue knows people aren't being killed by quote, assault weapons, by rifles. It's handguns that are causing the major problems in this country and crime. But back, in the early 90s, late 80s, they decided to call these guns assault weapons, even though they're not, because they knew most people get confused and they see big, black, scary rifles, and it looks like the guns that they have in Afghanistan and Iraq, or back then I would say Desert Storm. They look scary, they look dangerous, they look automatic, so of course we should ban those. Those shouldn't be on the streets. And then of course, becomes something, polls go up, Congress passes a law, we ban guns that look scary that have absolutely no effect on crime. And this is what they're always doing, and it just takes a lot of educating the public, which you do every day, Cam, of course, and getting people to understand exactly why they're going after certain things and why, Bloomberg spent $12 million for common sense background checks. He didn't like the Manchin Toomey bill. Manchin Toomey bill didn't go far enough for him.
Right.
But it's the little tiny bits that they can get because they know that they get closer and closer to the big things they want, which is the National Registry and gun bans.
Yes, and that's that's the thing. And it's funny, Emily. I saw a piece today. I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the gun control advocates saying, it was Cass Sunstein. That's who it was. Saying these gun owners, they always talk about the slippery slope as if these common sense reforms are going to lead to gun confiscation. These silly gun owners. Emily, we saw the Schumer Fixed Gun Checks Act of 2013. We saw the bill as Schumer introduced it, the bill that he really wanted before Schumer Manchin Toomey. We saw the president's proposals. We heard Senator Feinstein. It's not a matter of a slippery slope argument. It's simply taking these people at their word.
Exactly. They're exactly what they put on paper already. As the NRA got that memo from Justice Department in January, which said the only way for, quote, universal background checks to work, this is Obama's Justice Department, is if there's a national gun registry. And that we start taking away the guns. I mean, this is the only way these things work, are these draconian things that are a complete violation of our Constitution. So, and although they may say, the NRA and the gun owners talk about the slippery slope, it is their tactics. That is exactly what they're doing. They're going after the things that can confuse the public in order to go after the bigger things. And effectively, it's very good. They do it well. But there is a slippery slope, and so both sides need to be aware of it. And you'll notice now that their side, they don't use the name gun control anymore. They don't say the words gun control. Brady campaign, Mayors Against Legal Guns, they're changing their tune. Now it's that they're for background checks. They're for reasonable proposals. I think that's what I'm forgetting her name all of a sudden. Gabby Gifford's organization is like Reasonable Solutions or something.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah. Now it's gun safety. It's common sense gun reform.
Yeah.
It's not gun control.
Right.
And
they're very smart with language. They're very smart with tactics. Both sides are. But what they have, which the NRA and Gun Owners America and all these other organizations don't have, is billions of dollars. And that's the difference. Is why when Bloomberg comes out and starts saying that he's going to start going after this, quote, terror gap, that's why it's a big deal, because he can throw so much money behind it and not even blink. I mean, he spent $12 million last month in 3 weeks.
Right.
And I think at least affected at least one vote on that. And now he's running radio ads bashing anybody who didn't vote his way. I mean, that's why when he says something now, it's a huge deal and has a huge impact because there's so much money involved and so many ads being run afterwards.
Well, absolutely. You know, I think it was Liz Thatcher at Media Research Center had pointed out George Soros spent something like $7 million on gun control efforts between 2000 and 2011. And as you mentioned, Bloomberg spent $12 million since January.
That's amazing.
I mean, that tells you just how serious Michael Bloomberg is about using his wealth and using the various platforms that he has.
And look at the $2 million he spent in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
One little race.
Yep.
I mean,
exactly.
And now he's bashing them all. Everyone who voted against what he thought were common sense, Manchin, Toomey, they're all getting radio ads hits right now at home. I mean, it is dangerous to go up against Mayor Bloomberg, and so when he comes up with these things like this quote terror gap, it's a serious thing. And especially, I have to say, I've only been writing about Second Amendment issues for about a year and a half now, so some of this stuff is new to me, and you have the historical perspective. So when I first read the press release, I was like, I fell for it. Of course, I said, well, I don't want terrorists having guns. We're not going to let terrorists get legally. I mean, obviously, the major flaw in this whole debate is in the Bloomberg debate is that if they're a terrorist, they're going to get a gun however they want. They're not going to care if they can't get it legally through a dealer. But that being said, I thought, well, that makes sense until I saw how many people were on this list, this terrorist list. I mean, it's like it's like you put all of Washington, D.C. on a list that can't buy guns. Actually, that's already the case.
Yeah, sadly.
We have 700,000 people, but it's pretty much the same situation.
Well, it is. And, again, if we're going to have that discussion, and I know that Mayor Menino and Mayor Bloomberg, again, have been wanting this for a while, but if we're going to have this discussion, we're going to say, all right, these people shouldn't be able to exercise their Second Amendment rights. Should they be able to vote? Should they be able to get public benefits if you're on the watch list? There's the story out of the Herald today of the Sarnav brothers and their family getting apparently $100,000 in public benefits. If you're on this list, so should you get welfare? Should you have your Third Amendment rights if you're on this list? What if we just quarter troops in your home, and that way we can keep an eye on you and everything's fine?
The list is a whole other issue, and it's very disconcerting. And the fact that you don't even know if you're on the list, you don't know how you got on the list. You don't know if, the thing is, only 20,000 of them are on the no-fly list of the 520 that the government admits are in the database.
Right.
So, and again, so people understand, we're talking about 95% are foreigners or illegals in the country. So as far as American citizens, it's a much smaller percent. But if you're an American citizen and you're in this terror watch list and you're not on the no-fly list, you don't know. You never know. So you're being watched. Your rights are being abridged. You don't know that's what's so unbelievable to me is that this is happening, and I don't know what kind of oversight Congress has about it, but the fact that you already have this bizarre database, mysterious database, we're now going to say to those people, they're not going to know that they're on it, they're going to go to the store and buy a gun and be like, you can't buy a gun, why not, can't tell you. Well, then when you find out you're on the wait list, well, if you are a real terrorist, then you know you've been watched, and that's a whole argument too, because the whole point of this database is so that the bad guys don't know they're being watched, so they can go out there and get caught. So there's another, the FBI has said over the years things quietly that, we don't, if they start going to the store to buy their gun and refuse, then they know they're on the watch list, and then we've got a real problem.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, Emily, appreciate you coming on the program, and we'll see you on the ground in Houston, Texas.
See you there. It'll be fun. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Emily Miller of the Washington Times with us.